Hey, what's going on everybody? My name is Jay and welcome to The Ship Life. So as usual, we do have a ton of cruise news to unpack, but before we get started, I do want to let all of you know that I had dental surgery last night. Things went really well and I'm not feeling any pain right now. I'm just a little swollen. I had a tooth extracted and I had a bone graft. So if I mess up some speech here and there, I do apologize. I'm just going to do my best. But anyway, guys, for today's cruise news, we do have to talk about the never-ending, at least it seems like, the Crystal Cruises saga. So Crystal Cruises recently had a court case. They ended up losing the court case and it cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now there could potentially be more trouble on the horizon for Crystal Cruises, as this company that ended up taking them to court is relatively small as far as what Crystal Cruises owed them. So it just means that everybody could be coming after Crystal Cruises in the not so distant future. You also have a government organization or a federal organization that is also going to ensure that customers that had sailings on board Crystal Cruises ships actually gets their money. At least they're going to tell them exactly how they can do it. Now we also have an update from Royal Caribbean as it will be returning to a cruise market for the first time in 9 years, which is obviously extremely great for Royal Caribbean and of course the communities over in that area. And then finally we have an update when it comes to Canada. Recently I did talk about, well yesterday actually, I talked about what was going on with Canada and that they would have cruise ships finally go over to that area. We now have literally hundreds of ships that are set to go back over to Canada here in 2022. We'll talk about it in today's video, so let's go ahead and get started. So Crystal Cruises was recently taken to court and they would unfortunately and inevitably lose the battle by a produce company known as Freedom Fresh. Now according to Freedom Fresh, Crystal Cruises owed them just under $500,000 for some of the produce that was delivered over to their ship. Now I don't know about the time span, but I'm assuming this had to have been within the last year or so. But either way, just to be very clear with all of you, $500,000 in the grand scheme of things, by that I mean the entire cruise ship industry, is literally a drop in the bucket. And to me, it just goes to show that if this smaller company is going after Crystal Cruises, then there may be a lot of trouble potentially on the way for them. Now, I hope not, but you guys can just kind of read the writing on the wall. Now, all of this is, of course, due to Crystal Company's parent company, Genting, originally back on January 18th, filing for bankruptcy as they are billions of dollars in debt. We kind of find out that the subsidiaries or the other smaller companies that are owned by Genting Cruise Lines like Star Cruises and in this particular case Crystal Cruises owes about $4.6 billion in unpaid fuel to another company. And now we're seeing, of course, throughout the woodwork, there are other companies that they are indebted to and they owe money to, and this is why we're having the big fiasco and problem right now. So Freedom Fresh, the produce company, ended up receiving just over $322,000 in the court case against Crystal Cruises. Now all this was partially due to something known as PACA or PACA. It's the Perishable Agricultural Commodities Act. Now it does a lot of things, just a license for produce companies. It kind of protects them in the event that something happens, in this particular case like a bankruptcy, ensuring that if, let's say, somebody owes them money, they are able to receive that money without any problems, or at least little problems. Now like I said, just looking at this entire situation objectively, when you look at this small amount of debt, again, when you compare it to the rest of the cruising industry and what they spend on cruise ships and all the other things that they buy, $250,000 to $500,000, like I said, is not a lot of money. So if you have this company, this produce company that just supplied like fruit and things of that nature to Crystal Cruises, what about the companies that were maybe helping them out with the furniture on board the ships, making sure the toilets were stocked up, the plumbing, everything else that is involved that is a lot more costly when it comes to operating and maintaining a cruise ship? I'm sure there are a lot of companies that had contracts with Crystal Cruises that may end up coming after them for money that is owed to them in the event that unfortunately their contracts ended up getting severed, or maybe it's kind of one of those things where it's a binding contract and no matter what, they owe them the money, they now have to go settle out in court. Now also with this, when it comes to the passengers that were sailing on board Crystal Cruises ships between now and the next coming months to years, there is an organization known as the FMC, or the Federal Maritime Commission. Basically what they have come out and just made it clear to customers is that you will get your money in some way or another. The cruise lines that are operating in the United States, there are a couple little details that are involved, but it requires them to have what's known as an escrow account, basically another bank account on the side in the event that something happens in this particular case like a bankruptcy, ensuring that everybody gets their money and they're not just kind of left to dry and fend for themselves, or left to hang rather than fend for themselves. You guys get what I mean. But my point is, you have a lot of people, in some cases I saw that there are some people that paid $6,000, $7,000 3 years ago for cruises that were taking place, I believe sometime this year, sometime next year, and they are just kind of feeling like they haven't had any communication with Crystal Cruises and they have no idea what's going to happen with their money. But basically with this escrow account, now just to be clear, there's no deadline as far as when Crystal Cruises has to pay up. but there is just kind of money off to the side, just specifically designed for these types of situations. However, if you, and again, I'm not an advisor, I'm not a travel agent or anything of that nature, I just want to make it clear, but for you guys, if you have not heard from Crystal Cruises, something that a lot of people are doing and something that is also being recommended just to kind of find the little loophole as far as getting your money back as soon as possible. If you pay with your debit card and your bank, you can of course file a dispute, and you can also call your credit card companies if you also pay with your credit card. Those are just kind of ways that people can kind of navigate throughout this entire situation, because I know for some people it's an absolute nightmare. Either way, guys, that's all we got for the Crystal Cruises saga. However, I do believe there is going to be more. But if you are affected by this in any kind of way, I do want to hear from you in the comment section below. Maybe you had a sailing with Crystal Cruises. Please let me know, because I'm genuinely interested. Now, sailing into some Royal Caribbean news, after a 9-year hiatus, Royal Caribbean will finally be returning to Latin America, starting with Royal Caribbean's Rhapsody of the Seas in December of 2023. Now, I know 2023 is obviously a long way off. However, this is exciting news, and I think it just kind of points out the picture when it comes to Royal Caribbean that they kind of have things smoothed out, pretty much smooth sailing for all of 2022. At least I hope so, and they can start focusing on other years and things that are going to be happening as far as projects and other destinations and itineraries in the future. So for me, I think it's all good. Now, when it comes to this Latin America phase with Rhapsody of the Seas and other ships that could potentially be going over to those areas, they're going to do this in kind of 2 phases. They're going to be sailing between 3 different ports, between Colombia and then Panama City as well. And they'll be doing elongated cruises. We saw some 8-day cruises in there, here and there. They're going to mix it in with the Caribbean as well. Either way, I'm not going to go over all the details because this is literally like 2 years out, end of 2023. But this is absolutely great, and I do like to see cruise lines expand and go back to other places. I'm sure for those people out of there over in Colombia, they're probably eager to get back on a Royal Caribbean ship. So either way, if you guys have already planned, because I know some of you out there plan your cruises like 2, 3, 10 years in advance, if you're going on any of these sailings, please let me know in the comment section below. Now, finally, as we sail into our last topic for today's video, I do invite all of you to hit that like button if you're enjoying the content. It goes a very long way in support of my channel, and I would appreciate it. And also subscribe to the channel. That way you can stay updated, of course, when I put out my cruise news, which is pretty much daily, and my vlogs as well, because I am going on the world's largest cruise ship for the inaugural sailing on March 4th, Royal Caribbean's Wonder of the Seas. And if you guys have seen my vlogs before when I'm on board cruise ships, you guys know it's crazy and it's unlike any other content creator you'll ever see. So I do strongly advise that you subscribe to this channel right now along with the notification bell. Now, let's talk about what's going on with Canada. So yesterday I did talk about the Port of St. John receiving their first cruise ship for the first time in 2 years, which is great news. But then after I put out that news, I found out, which I wish I had done a little bit more thorough search. I try to do the best I can, but I couldn't find out that at least 300 cruise ships, I believe the exact number is 310 cruise ships, ranging from Royal Caribbean ships, Celebrity ships, NCL ships, Princess ships, are all going to be sailing in and out of Vancouver this year in 2022. Starting with the, I believe it was the Caribbean Princess on April 7th. She will be doing a 19-day sailing, which is ridiculous. 19-day sailing out of Vancouver, heading over to Florida, going to the Caribbean, going around California. Now, that sounds like a lot of days. However, when you look at the fact that cruising operations have not happened over in Vancouver in a pretty long time, I'm sure those people that will be sailing on that cruise ship are going to be more than willing and excited to be on a 19-day sailing. I'm also sure the vendors over in that area are without a doubt jumping for joy. They're probably just extremely excited to be able to get back to making money and back to seeing people's smiling faces again. Now, also, they are going to be pretty much rebuilding the path between, of course, Seattle, Vancouver, and Alaska. Now, as most of you know, last year there was a bunch of bills being passed and acts being passed. The main one primarily was known as ATRA, which is the Alaska Tourism Recovery Act. This allowed cruise ships sailing out of Seattle to temporarily bypass Vancouver and go straight over to Alaska, which worked out great. There were talks about it being permanent because this was a temporary change at the time to the PVSA, the Passenger Vessel Services Act. All of that, of course, I guess now is kind of going to be washed away. They're going to let bygones be bygones because at the time the communities over in Canada, they weren't really in support of cruising. They were kind of still shutting it down, not allowing the bridge gap to be kind of mended, so to speak. But either way, guys, I don't want to dwell on this topic too much. All of this is, of course, extremely great news, and I'm excited to see what happens as we move forward here in 2022. Of course, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I appreciate every single one of you. Share this video. It also goes a very long way in support of my channel, and I have another one coming out tomorrow. I appreciate all you guys. I'll see you soon. Until then, take it easy.